right, I will begin by calling the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen to order, special meeting for Tuesday, February 13th, 2018.
And I will do the same for the Board of Finance.
Please rise again and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'll make a couple of opening remarks.
Please.
Right, so I'm going to come around here again so I can see everybody. In as much as we have several new members of the Board of Finance, I want to just give you a couple of words about how we've done this in the past. And it's different. Different than what you might read in the paper that other towns do. Certainly different than the mayor form of government, where you are more likely to see the chief executive officer of the town present a budget with a bottom line number, and then the discussions begin from there. It has been my preference to not do it that way because of the unique nature of our charter. Unlike most other towns, I have not found anything similar to our charter, and what it requires is that the department heads present their budget requests to a joint meeting of the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen. And it's interesting in that regard. It's obvious that the charter was structured that way so that everybody who makes a decision, and of course under our charter, the Board of Finance has the final decision before the budget goes to the voters. It's designed this way so that everybody gets to hear the needs as expressed by each department head, each line item in each department within the budget. So you will not see my recommendation until after all these presentations are done. And this gives you a chance to really look at what they have, what they're presenting, ask them questions, challenge them if you feel that's necessary, and get all the information you need before we get to the final phase of this thing. One thing that I would ask you to do is if you, because you're going to get a ton of information thrown at you, as those of you who've been on the board know, it may be impossible to remember all the questions you might have in your head 3 weeks from now, when after I present the final budget that we vote on, that my colleagues and I with the Board of Selectmen vote on, and then you run the risk of running into needing more information. If any questions that you have, I would ask over the next 2 weeks as we go through these presentations, jot them down and email them. And I'll ask anybody, every board member, jot them down and email them to myself and the comptroller. What we'll do is we'll gather up those questions, go to the department heads as needed, and then answer them to everybody so that everybody can see exactly any question that's been asked, and they will have the benefit of having all those answers. So without further ado, I believe we're starting with Town Clerk. Okay. So welcome, Ms. Berg.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations to the new members. And I thank you because it's a lot of devotion to be here for these meetings. I know from past experience how long they can go and how much information you're given. And thank you to the previous members who voted last year for my increase. That was a huge vote of confidence in me, and it was greatly appreciated. So I'm pretty much cut and dried. I gave you, I think, as part of the handout I gave Bob and Matt, just some information about my revenue, the profits I make on the portal, which is an online land record system that we make money on for people wanting to remotely look up land records. But I don't want to jump all over the place. Basically, I've reduced expenses by a total of $2,300. There's some areas that last year I'd taken $2,000, I believe, or close to it, off of the election account, and we were still okay. So based on what we're looking at in terms of a primary, an election, referenda, et cetera, I reduced that down another $2,000. I think we'll be okay with that money. I worked with the registrars on that, so that cost that for the election account is ballots, legal notices, signage, absentee ballots, all that. It comes out of my budget. The registrars handle poll workers, setting up the machines, et cetera. So we kind of share that responsibility. I was lucky I got to come first because I had plans that were canceled. I was supposed to not be in town on the 15th. So the other accounts I had to, I cut, it increased on office expense. I shop around. They have a new program upstairs in the finance office where we, before we submit a purchase order, we have to find the best price, which is something we've never done before. So we go to Amazon and to Crystal Rock and to Staples and try and find the right price and then send it up. And, that's the options we send up. So we have to do investigative work when we want to place a purchase order, which I think is great. Dues and education I've raised, and there's a lot of information out there that helps to move the staff forward. Computer classes. There's also certification classes that are mandated. In order for our assistants to be certified, they have to go to school twice a year for 2.5 years and then take a test. That was, I raised up a little bit, along with the mileage, because that is also part of it. A lot of the classes are held in New Britain at CCSU, and then conferences are also spread out all over the state. Let me see. Codification and microfilming, that is our main software program that runs everything. Our dog program, our land record program, all fees taken into our office, online systems, everything. So that is our bread and butter for that office. We have a new vital statistics portal. Right, we're connected right to the Department of Public Health for vital records for birth certificates. So there's no longer we bill other towns or they bill us for sending us copies. So it's done all through the state, and there's no fee for that. So we've reduced that by 200. It's pretty much nickel and dime, but my main motivation and my past history is always not trying to keep the budget flat. I don't come in and ask for high amounts of money. I do that in my personal life, and I try and do it in the office as well. But as you can see, revenue's up. Land records are really doing great. Our conveyance tax that we receive for the town, anytime a property is sold or transferred, the seller has to pay conveyance tax to the state and to the town. So it's a pretty big number increase. Let me see. A lot more people getting married. We had 12 more couples this year, and that's usually a good sign of the economy. We had a real lull a couple years ago. So, and the portal profits are our online, like I said, land record system where they can go online and look up the records and make copies, and we still gain that $1 per page. It gets deposited electronically into our account. And that's pretty much it. I'm real easy. Unless anybody has any questions.
I do,
Yes.
as usual. With my, congratulations on the great presentation.
Oh, I got further certified too.
Good. I'm always looking for revenue. When's the last time we raised our fees?
Our fees are state, they're statutorial. We can't raise our
you
fee.
can't.
I can raise notaries, and
Yeah.
we've raised notaries, and I think I just did it for just this past year from July 1st through now, and I made almost $1,000. I raised it it started out as $2, went to $3, and now $5 a notary. So that's an extra $1,000 in our general fund that we didn't have before. So I even got a fax machine and started charging people to fax, so it paid for my fax machine. So it can be creative that way. Next, I'll be picking up bottles, and then no,
Lisa,
I'm good.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you have any goals for the office that if money were not an object, that you would like to expand on?
Yeah, I don't think it comes from my budget, but my rug is dangerous. It's been, and if you blue lighted it, you'd want to just run.
No, I meant your.
Oh, my personal goals?
Yes, in the
Well,
office.
I have the grant. So the grant they've raised this year, I just got notifications now, $4,500 versus $4,000. So it's another $500. And what I did was I took some of our vital records from 1800s and had them preserved because they're deteriorating. And as part of a town clerk responsibility, you are to maintain those records and make sure that they last forever. There is also, I want to move forward with that. I also want to get our land records back further than 1969. Some towns can bring it back all the way to the beginning, which is 1855. I mean, that's a huge, huge project, but hopefully I'll be here long enough to get that done. And, yeah, I mean, just keep moving the office forward. Electronically, they have a new thing called e-recording. I'm still on the fence with it because the land records come in electronically. You don't have that physical live signature and seal, and so I'm testing the waters with my toes a little bit, but.
You're a purist.
Yeah, it's a town clerk thing. So, yeah, I mean, the office, my table just went like this in the office with the weight, and we kind of, while nobody was looking, took the mailroom table and swapped it out, and that's what I do. I don't ask to buy a $1,000 table, so, and the carpet needs to be done, bad. It's a safety hazard. So, but that's not me.
Wait, you mean the wall-to-wall carpet like this?
Yeah, it's been stretched a few times, it buckles and rips, I've had tripped over it myself, it's just kind of in need bad, and it's wearing, and it's, it's not one of those luxury things, it's more of a safety and a need thing, so.
Is that the original rug?
Yeah, and the counters, but, I take the rug over the counters right now, we use Scotch tape to keep the ends on, and that seems to be working okay, so.
So will we see money for carpet replacement in someone else's budget somewhere, or?
It's in
Building
the
maintenance.
capital plan. We have about 5 years of, with the building maintenance department, I think it's about $30,000 or $40,000 a year for the 5 years, just to cover the town hall. Because not only the town clerk's office, but park and rec, and even up in the finance office, it's buckling for whatever reason. Maybe there's too much moisture up there at times, it just comes up and then it doesn't, you almost gotta spray it down, heat using the steam.
We tried to pay to have the guy stretch
Yeah.
it, flatten it out, and it eventually came back up. But I will tell you, I spackled and painted that office myself, going back years ago, so I'm not afraid of hard work, but I am not laying carpet.
To the best of my knowledge, that's the original carpet from when this building was renovated,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was almost 20 years ago.
yeah. The 5-second rule doesn't apply in my office.
But if it's a safety hazard, it should be in this year's
Mhm.
budget somewhere, right?
Mhm.
So,
Well, I have a logistical question comment, because I attended all of the Board of Education workshops the past few weeks. And there was a lot of discussion in the facilities meeting about carpet squares. Now, so my thinking is there no way to combine these efforts? There seems to be not a lot of crossover between the town and the education. So I'm thinking, get a great deal on those carpet squares, because Bob's gonna be replacing a bunch of carpet squares in the lobby of the high school and other places. I mean.
I'm open,
all
it's
about
not up to me,
making it-
but,
No, I'm saying
yeah.
this is a logistical comment, that's the
Mhm.
kind of thing that could actually save money.
Kinda like borrowing the mailroom table.
Well, sort of, not really. And duct tape works better, but,
We'll look into it.
you know, that's where
So
you
it's-
save the money.
Pretty much it. Oh, and the train's really doing well. We're making tons of money every day, which is, we go online and check the new kiosk, and it just blows my mind.
On the park.
Yeah, it went in on the 1st of February, and we're credit cards, coins, it's just really working well, so.
Except we don't get to keep any of it.
We can keep half.
Oh, good, good.
Where's the rest of it?
I should keep it brief. It's not bringing up all these issues, huh?
So Lisa, like, what are the numbers like?
Just since the 1st, we've made $500 in coin. Coin and credit card payments on daily parking. Our annual permits are, right up where they usually are, and we don't have a waiting list any longer, so.
So it's 13 days, so.
It's good money. So, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
All right.
Appreciate it.
If you think of anything that you need from me,
Are you going down the
you
list
can all
or
give me an email or whatever.
Of course, the next one is
Do you wanna go to
library.
Library?
library?
Thank you.
Okay, up next, library, 435.
I see some new faces here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ted Stevenson. I'm the chair of the Library Board of Directors. And for those of you who don't know her, this is our new director, Megan Dean. and I'd like to congratulate her for having stepped right into the beginning of this budget process and taken it on and
Thank you.
gotten it under control. I would like to take a couple of minutes of your time to just rapidly go through the narrative that we put together. These are some basic facts. The library is open 7 days a week for most of the year. It's open an average of 55 hours a week to the public. We have a staff of 20 some odd people. We have a large group of volunteers who contributed about $18,000 worth of work in the last fiscal year. We had almost 23,000 visits to the library in the past fiscal year, offered almost 400 programs, and had over 6,500 participants there. I'd just like to touch on the long-term goals, because this is the year in which we have to produce a long-term goal report. We would like to increase library hours, and there's some details here. You have that. You have this, I believe, in your material. We would like to create, or start to create, a virtual library where all of the online tools are available in one centralized location on our website, so that 24-hour library service is really available to the patrons. That's a fairly ambitious goal. We want to increase library programming. In fact, that's already happened in the juvenile department. Kids, I don't actually have those figures, but how much is kids' attendance? of kids?
Children's attendance has increased by 50% since we changed our programming structure in September.
Right. I think those are the important things. If you have any other questions about the narrative, I'll be happy to address them. I believe we have a summary of a line-by-line summary of our budget. We have one that goes into a little bit more detail. With the library, most line items tend to stay about the same, maybe go up a little, down a little. The one that will trend higher over time is salaries, for obvious reasons. The salary increases that we have requested in this budget add up to a 3% increase over last year's salary line. Now, I have to point out that last year, in its infinite wisdom, the Board of Finance saw fit to take $10,000 out of our bottom line budget. And since that was the money that was earmarked for salaries, the salary increases were fairly modest last year. If I'm going too fast, just slow me down and ask me any questions that occur to you.
Ted,
Yeah.
on other librarians, you're looking for a fourth?
Oh,
Would
yeah,
that be a new
thank you,
position? Is
Wendy. I'm
that
glad you.
full-time?
We are, for next year, we will be promoting one of the library assistants to a librarian. She will get her degree, and we have a job mapped out for her. So that will be one fewer library assistant.
So 104 other salaries goes down, and 102 other librarians would go up,
Yes.
Yeah,
and that'd be full-time position?
They're both full-time
They're
positions.
full-time now.
The understanding that their role would change within the library,
Mhm.
looking to do more outreach and marketing within the community to create more connections and partnerships. And we don't currently have a position designed specifically for that. This will allow us to do that.
I keep forgetting that people talk budget lines, account numbers.
Oh.
Okay, equipment, supplies, there's no change from our last year's request, $1,280. Equipment's maintenance, similar, no increase requested. Books and materials, a modest increase. You'll notice that especially the juvenile circulating collection is bumped up a significant amount, that's because that collection has been unfortunately rather underfed over the last decade or so. We've had a lot of books that are outdated and don't circulate, and we're working very hard to bring that collection up to a more current condition. So that, the increase in books and materials is 4% compared to last year's line item. And that's within the context of a 2.5 increase in the total budget. Okay, contracted services. Again, no increase requested. If you have any questions about the details, please feel free to ask. The telephone, we have, I believe, discussed this with the Board of Finance in the past, but we had an outmoded, like a 15-year-old phone system that we owned, and it was okay to keep patching it together as long as parts were available. And parts simply stopped being available, so this board approved a move to a managed, leased phone system, and we are now, that phone system is in place. There are some details. It was installed partway through the last fiscal year, and the increase here represents a full fiscal year's worth of telephone usage.
Let me ask this question then. I remember we had a very long discussion last year about
Right,
this
I think we
telephone
did.
system. Now it's totally upgraded now, correct?
Totally upgraded.
And-
There's still some tweaking to be done, but it's
Yeah.
all new.
Because I noticed there's like a 13% increase right here.
Right.
Is that due to the new system, or is that still some additional upgrades?
It's due to the fact that we weren't paying for that system throughout the
Okay.
last fiscal year.
All right.
But it should remain constant going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Program outreach, our contribution to that has traditionally been about $1,000 out of the library's operating budget. Most of the rest of it comes from friends of the library, grants, and other donations. And finally, dues and services, no increase. The total budget increase that we are requesting, as I noted at the beginning, is 2.49%. And again, that is mostly in salaries and books and materials. What can I tell you? What can we tell you?
Mine says an increase of 2.521, is that,
Sorry?
That is correct.
yeah,
So,
I show a different percentage of it.
It's, we had to make a modification to,
Okay.
the longevity, and then that was where the adjustment was.
We're looking at some different paperwork that was used, and I think you may have, our cover was, our cover data was different than the detail. So I think that what you're telling us is look at this cover detail that shows an increase of 2.5.
Yeah, we were working with a more detailed budget, and I just checked to see that the final numbers agreed, and they do. So, but we can make this available to you very easily.
And the dollar increases to make sure that, so the dollar increases to
And here it
$21,000
is, this is what.
I'm sure you're better doing the arithmetic than I am.
Luckily, it's provided, I didn't have to do any subtraction.
Yep, our number
Okay.
is,
21.8. Just make sure we're looking at the right sheet.
yep, the numbers are correct.
Okay.
Just for the board members, we have a cover sheet, and then we have some detail.
Yeah.
It's the cover sheet that has the accurate numbers in it.
That's
So
correct.
the update.
Well, it,
But for, you were saying, longevity.
so all the information in this packet is accurate. It's the percentage change was the only exception, and the percentage change is 2.52. Our cover sheet didn't match this one for the fact that we had to modify longevity, but that was updated in this packet.
Sorry about that. Well, versions do proliferate.
Can you just explain that, the longevity, is this for, are these?
We had one employee who's moving up, they'll have reached their 10-year mark, so we had to include the longevity.
So it's a salary increase.
Yes.
So I apologize, I'm new here.
We do not. Our fines money gets returned back to the town, so that would be the only revenue stream that we would say.
Do we make any good money on fines, or?
We put a new system in place to notify patrons when items are due. We don't wanna be in the practice of generating fines for the fact that when people accumulate large fines, they tend to stop using the library. So we don't wanna deter people from coming in.
Yeah, understood. No, I was just wondering if there is a substantial amount of fines that do come in, or not really?
Not really. Hey, Bob,
I'm clueless on that.
do you
sorry.
know offhand what the revenue is from fines, library fines? I know it's very tiny, but, yeah.
But we get it back.
It's a small number, we don't even track it really.
And it's important to remember too, just that being a library, our objective is not to generate revenue, but to really be a support system to the community. So our goals are very different than most of the departments you're gonna see tonight. We're here to enhance our community, to provide services, and to make sure that we have a well-rounded structure that allows for people to receive what they need.
sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I know that the Friends of the Library, that's a different organization,
Yes.
it's an organization within the organization, but do they not take on fundraising at all?
They do, and they provide the bulk of our programming costs.
Because,
And-
well, I'm saying, I looked at that and I only saw that one fundraiser a year. When I looked at it, it was like $2,500 a
So
year.
they do one large fundraiser in the summer, and then they do smaller fundraisers throughout the year. They also have their bookseller, where they bring in funds on a regular basis, and they have membership fees.
Is there any way that, would we have access to that, or
No.
to know that? Do you?
Oh,
do they
access
share
to
that with-
their-
The
you mean their-
information, do they share that with you?
They
Or-
do, and they do share it with the community.
Okay, where?
Well, typically, they put it out through their email blasts, so they send something out annually with a report. So I can get that information for you.
Well,
if
no,
that's
I
what
just
you'd
didn't know
like.
if it was accessible online, yeah, that'd be great, I would like to see that, if you don't mind.
I'm flipping through here.
Deal with revenues again, but the only thing I can think about is, are you competitive on your cost per copy machine?
Yes.
Okay.
So we do canvas for contracts.
Yeah.
We also work with CLC, the Connecticut Library Consortium, for pricing. So they go out and they take bids for purchasing, and then we always look to them first before we purchase anything, so we get the state discount.
The budgeted library miscellaneous revenue for the year is $15,000.
Okay.
So that's what goes into the mill rate calculation, that we're gonna receive
Okay.
$15,000.
That includes the copiers, I think, right?
Okay, I've been flipping through my papers, hoping to find the copy of the capital expenditure request that Bob sent out earlier. I didn't come up with that.
Are we moving on to that, or do?
No, you
I
can
just
do-
wanted,
Oh,
I did have a
sorry.
question about, and this, well, you're new here, but, they'll probably tell you, I like to save money, I'm frugal.
That's
I'm
it.
very
No, go right
conservative.
ahead.
So when I say these things, it's just questions about numbers and money. So I noticed that you're saying that these are modest increases, There are so many people in the community who don't even get a modest increase of anything, so that is my concern is that even, a 2.521 increase, significantly more than the Board of Education is asking for, and I just don't, it just seems that it's, I understand what you're trying to do, but in terms of what the landscape is now, and what's happening with the state, and what's happening with, we're gonna be bonding out for so many projects. It just seems that there might be a way to look at this again.
Well, part of it too is also our desire to increase hours, to be open more to the community. So it's not just salary increases, it's
Oh,
also.
no, I know that.
Well,
I
I'm
see
just.
that. No, I know
so-
that, but there is specific increases, but all the increases you say are modest, and yes, they are. But maybe sometimes there has to be some some sort of, I don't know, rationale for maybe we don't go full steam ahead. I'm not saying we go back to, Little Red Schoolhouse and, signing out one book for the whole town. I'm just saying that these are lofty goals, and they're great. I just think that we're in a situation where, it's just, I just don't, personally, I was lobbying for no increases, and that's because of everything that's been happening. I feel like we're living in a fairy tale a little bit. Not you personally living in a fairy tale,
No,
just in general, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, I look at it as twofold. The first being how, for so long, the library staff has been getting marginal raises at best. Whereas other, the school district, for example, where they have their union contract, they have increases built in over time. The second part of that is the mere fact that I'm demanding more from my staff. I'm asking them to change their roles and to do more work and to reach out into the community. And I want them to have a sense of reward for that. I want them to know that with this expectation and this increase in work, that there will be recognition for that. And I understand that the economy is changing and that not everyone within our community is going to be getting a salary increase this year. But I want to try to create the opportunity to reward hard work. And with that, I'm hoping the community sees that impact, that they see, like right now, I have my teen services staff, we're collaborating with the school district. They're in the high
That's
school.
my other question. I was gonna ask you what your relationship was with the school.
So right now,
libraries.
within the last 3 months, we've been working with them. I have my teen librarian and a couple staff members rotating, going over there once a week to work within the, they call it the Library Commons now, in the Library Commons. Sorry, they keep changing the terminology all the time, but working with them on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics programming that they're doing, because they're looking to build their program at the same time we are. So instead of us each branching out on our own, spending money, attempting to put together programs that may not even mimic each other, we're working as a unit to develop a strategy where we support each other and we're tracking each other's progress.
I
So
think
that
that's
way,
amazing. I actually been talking about that for about 10 years, that there needs to be more
Yeah.
interaction, because you have this enormous resource. Why should it be just,
And-
patchwork?
and I agree. And
So
I
think that's
And what's
great.
wonderful is they're very supportive of this plan, so the next step we're working on is summer reading. So instead of the school having a summer reading program, the governor having a summer reading program, the library having a summer reading program, the library is gonna be purchasing software that allows us to share our summer reading program within these 3 different groups.
Okay.
And it will cut back on the amount of paperwork being sent out, the obligation from the parents in the community, and then at the end of the summer, we can track that progress and see its success. And I really do believe there will be great success with that. But what that means is the library staff has to take on a larger role within that. And you're gonna see great change within their positions and their responsibilities. And we're gonna be more accountable for what we do. So as we're asking you for an increase to our materials budget, we're gonna be accountable to that increase. We're gonna evaluate what we're purchasing, what we're utilizing, and we're gonna assess every year to make sure that the money we are spending is appropriately used and benefiting Bethel specifically.
That's also good news. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Ted, you were going to go into the capital? Do you want to?
Yes, as I understand it, we were also supposed to present our capital requests tonight.
Bob, you moved that into non-recurring, I think, right?
No, they've got a couple of small, no,
Okay.
they were all there.
Right.
Those
Go
items
ahead.
there, because
Right,
if
my
they're gonna
mistake.
go into capital non-recurring, they gotta go to the capital plan to begin with, then you can
Okay.
go to finance and move it to the capital non-recurring.
As I said, I was trying to find the spreadsheet that Bob sent out, but it's buried in here somewhere. But we have.
Megan has it on the last sheet.
Oh, it
No,
was
no,
on
no,
the
I'm
last
sorry.
sheet?
Yeah, I did put it on yours. There it is,
Telephone, programming, dues and services, maybe it's in the
the
beginning.
last sheet. The spreadsheet.
Oh,
Okay.
you mean,
Actually,
Then, you know what, I get,
no.
I have it in my iPad. I can get it right out.
Do, you have copies of the, sorry guys.
So it's a garage, conversion of
I
garage?
actually, I
yeah, I
have
put it on the desk.
Library entrance?
No.
some, no, we have 2 projects specifically. You should see a Sealy House server.
It's all these items here.
Okay,
No.
So this is, it's
oh, except that's the old,
Sealy server.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about the confusion, but Mr. Kozlowski did send us a copy of the spreadsheet, which combines last year's capital request with this year's capital request. And this year's capital request embodied two projects. One is to put a properly designed, thank you, Bob, air conditioning system in the server room in the Sealy House. We've had some real problems with that, moisture condensing and running into the walls and the floor, and it was very expensive to repair all that. So that project is a total of a little short of $8,000. The other project is to repair the outside of the library. We brought this to you guys last year, and it was deferred to a later time. That has a total on Bob's spreadsheet of $18,691. But when we met informally with the first selectman recently, two of the items on this, including the pressure washing of the building and the touch-up painting after power washing, it was suggested that that might be maintenance rather than capital expenditure. So in my rough arithmetic brain, the total project of the exterior repairs is, okay,
So the two projects would be.
14,691, yeah. Just to say it one more time, the exterior repair has been kind of deferred several times. I think this was all done through the Public Works Department.
Yes.
And they've got very specific specs on this, so it'd be nice to be able to move ahead with that.
So we met with Public Works and did a walkthrough of the facility, exterior, interior, to get an idea of long-term planning for the building. And very simple right off the bat was the power washing. The building has a lot of mold on it, it needs to be cleaned. With power washing comes damage to paint that's chipping away. And more specifically, the project that we're addressing here is the hardy board at the bottom of the building. It's deteriorating, some of the lower panels are almost non-existent at this point. So with that basic maintenance, we run into issues of the building exterior deteriorating over time. So at this point, we'd like to solve that problem now before it gets worse. And it's important that we continue to maintain this part of the building.
Question, the planking that's deteriorating at the bottom of the
Yes.
structure, is there a moisture problem? Is that rotting? Is that why that's happening?
We're not really sure. We think it may be damage from lawnmowers, but there's no definitive answer to that. It's some sort of a mineral composition, and what the Public Works has suggested is replacing it with white PVC board,
Oh, okay.
rather than the same material. So
Mhm.
that's pretty durable.
Well, you need to look at, possibly you need to put gravel or something so they don't go up next to the weed whacker or something. Because the PVC board, if they go up with the weed whacker, they'll destroy the PVC board too.
Will they? Okay, well, that's good to know.
And that's softer than the cement board.
Or another suggestion would be just landscape it with bushes to keep away the weed whacker.
Well, we do have a problem though with moisture, because you can even see with the mold on the side of the building. Some of it you can see is rot. So while there is damage from the weed whacker going along, where you can see the paint has been removed from the siding, you can also see that there's moisture within the boards and it's
The
deteriorating.
wooden door casings are rotting at the bottom.
Really?
That's part of this spec that
Is it
they,
on the entrance?
yeah, several of the entrances.
The Sealy House specifically, some of those doorways. So a lot of it is along the older part of the building, but anywhere it's damaged, we'd like to replace the boarding.
Any other questions?
You can keep it.
I'll give you this book if you'd like to see it. It does specify.
Ted, Megan, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it. And if you do have any questions, if you send them on to Matt, I'll make sure we get back to you right away.
Okay. Am I up?
You're up. Just, library, just one quick question.
Yeah.
I noticed what you gave me right here. These are actual bids or just estimates?
Which, are you looking at the?
Repairs.
Repairs,
For the repairs, those are estimates right now.
okay. And you got them from,
Public Works obtained them for us.
okay, thank you.
All right, well, again, everybody, Selectmen's budget, item number 100, or department number 100, you'll see is changed very little from last year. There's two areas that are restructured that I would like to point out. That would be line number 102 and line number 103. You'll notice that one goes down and one goes up. As has been the situation for quite a number of years. The Selectman's office has 1.5 headcount, in addition to the selectman, you know, in the office himself. But, one full-time person, one part-time person, in making the changeover from Mrs. Smith retiring and joining your board, the duties were substantially restructured. One of the things that the full-time administrator took care of was benefits, employee benefits. And the world we live in today is much more complicated than it used to be. It's regulated. You know, you have to worry about complying with Department of Labor regulations. There are multiple union bargaining agreements that need to be, that demand compliance. In addition, that individual handles all of the retirees' benefits. So that's both pension, or in the case of newer employees, and none of those apply right now, but the 403B program, the defined contribution. And what makes it particularly complicated is that with each retiree, and again, we have 4 bargaining units, we have, at this point, 3 different health plans for current employees, but with the retirees, some of them contributed for medical during their working years, others did not. So you have, how many retirees do we have in the system right now, active retirees that we're paying benefits to? Do you know offhand, Bob?
I would say at least 100, 110.
Okay, so each employee may have retired at a time when their contract had certain provisions in it, which changed later. So there are literally dozens of permutations of these contracts, and they change over time, the costs change. So we have actually given up the part-time position to the HR office. So that part-time position has some expanded hours and now works with Phyllis Kansky. And that is a new employee who joined us about 2 months ago by the name of Mary Churchill. She does cover the office when Mrs. Craig is at lunch and you know, and other spot coverages, but 98% of her duty is devoted to managing the benefits. It is something that probably should have been done a long time ago. The HR function in general has become very complicated, very demanding. It has to be done right. So we've made these structural changes within the context of the total budget with, as you can see, very minimal impact. Everything else pretty much stays the same. So, questions?
Would you say long time coming?
What's that?
Long time coming,
Yeah.
good move.
Yes.
Any questions on the Board of Finance? Take that as a no.
I'm sorry, I just wanna clarify, so there's a human resources person and then there's a benefits person?
Yes.
Separate.
Yeah, they work together. As a matter of fact, it's still the case that both positions are part-time. In fact, Phyllis, the line 104, Phyllis is she's part-time, but within that, she's part human resources and part-time grant writer and grant administrator.